All right, so welcome back. This is Tuesday, and this is our official full week session. So this is CIS 260, right? So this is our website. Hopefully everybody knows how to find it. So this is our homepage right here. Hopefully you have been reading what I have posted here, especially these business requirements. And these business requirements are, again, the description for our semester project, which is going to be the focus of our attention through the end of this semester. So it describes basically the business model to control and to simulate the movements of elevators in the building. Now, like I told you last week, this is something that it's not absolutely unique to the description of business model just for the elevator situation. Anything that has traffic control, has like train traffic or cars traveling along the roads, could be you can trace similarities between controlling the traffic in certain directions, controlling movements of what can move in that specific problem domain, being that a train or a locomotive, or maybe it's an air traffic control. So elevators are just basically the most controllable situation that we have, essentially a bank of a number of elevators. Each shaft there has the elevator car, and it can be moved by simply pressing controls, having visitors to the building, trying to call the elevators, and so forth and so forth. So how can I picture this? And this is sort of like way before we begin our formal design of this, our formal review. It's easy. The focus of our attention here is clearly object-oriented design. So we'd like to try to explore the possibility of using object-oriented system with software basically emulating this reality where you have a real building with a real bank of elevators. So what I'm picturing right now is that most likely I am going to have something, to begin with, I'd like to think in terms of objects, right? And objects are like real life objects. Like, for instance, an elevator bank or bank of elevators. So let's call it elevator bank, something like that. Could be an object. Now, I have to use some kind of notation to picture it. If you took my Java class, you know that I try, when I think about objects in memory that already occupy some memory. By the way, for people who just took a C class without specifically object-oriented techniques, you can think about structures. Structures just basically an aggregation of data fields, right? So the elevator bank, I'd like to, like I did in CIS 257, I just want to try to use these 3D boxes to try to visualize something that sits in computer memory. So I'm not talking about software classes or specific relationships between those classes. I'm just thinking that when my program executes, there is an object in memory which represents the bank of elevators. Of course, it has some kind of collection of elevators, right? So there could be a collection that basically creates individual elevators, and I can have multiple elevators or elevator objects in memory. Each one is the type of the elevator, right? This is what I'm trying to picture here. And so somehow I have this collection, and there could be more than two, right? But in memory, when program executes, there's an elevator bank. Somehow it keeps track of a collection of the elevators, if you think about, again, if you think in terms of C, it can be just an array of objects or array of these structures. If you think about Java programming language, in the most flexible situation, this could be an array list right here. This specific collection here could be, this thing here could be an array list of the elevator objects. And we're about to demonstrate some of it in the code, but just trying to think of, what could be just something very simple I can start with when prototyping, when just exploring the ideas, testing the ground for my programming languages, graphical user interfaces, operating environments. Essentially, I want to explore this whole situation hands-on, right? Not just like sitting in front of the document and imagining things, but actually try things on sitting by the keyboard and try to write some code. So that's what I need. So this is, on the general scale of things, this would be something that we could refer to as our business objects that should exist. They represent our business. They all fulfill certain requirements, right? The elevator bank is responsible for keeping track of the elevators. The elevator bank may be responsible also for sending messages to the individual elevator objects. And those elevator objects supposed to respond accordingly by, essentially somehow implement movements, moving from one floor to another floor, moving between the floors, opening and closing doors. So the details will pile up at some point. But on a general scale, this is what this thing is, and we're trying to say that a set of business objects essentially describes our. Let me just perhaps just clear up a little bit of the screen space right here and say that what I'm thinking is my business model, right? So I start thinking about this business model, and right now it just basically equates the set of business objects I'm trying to think of, and the most obvious, if you did read that description, the most obvious parts of it is there's an elevator bank that has a collection of elevators. On the other side of things, I have some kind of a view, right? I need some sort of a view, some kind of display, representation of this business object, this entire business model that I'm trying to work with, right? So there's a computer screen, right? There's a computer screen, or it could be your, not necessarily, your desktop or laptop. This could be a gadget like a tablet device, like iPad or Android device. And there is perhaps some kind of a window inside, right? Maybe there's a window, and inside that window, I can have all kinds of gadgets, like buttons and input boxes and some sort of display. And inside that display, I may want to display the movements of these elevators, right? So these elevators here are objects in memory which contain data. Like, what floor am I on? What state am I in? What is my speed? What is my, how many miles did I travel? Or something, whatever it wants to keep track of, its entire state. But eventually, when we say we want to view this, we want to see you, this object somehow has to be able to visualize itself somewhere here. And if it, somehow magically gets updates, and it wants to move around, then it will basically relocate itself to a different spot, right? So this will just display its own movement and relocate to a different spot. And we can try to visualize the animation of these things, and whatever we want to be able to visualize, right? Those things somehow need to be able to visualize themselves inside this window, or whatever is the user interface. Somehow could be a command window, roll and scroll display, something we can come up with. But nevertheless, this view, the most important thing, that this view of our business model is completely separate, right, from the, the view is separate from the business model. Okay, it's very important thing that I'd like to show you, because what I want to do, I want to be able to add new business objects, whatever they might be, right? Anytime I want, and I don't want this model that I'm trying to build by looking carefully at my business rules of my business domain, of my, application, set of regulations, things that I need to follow, like policies and so forth, right? And at the same time, I want to keep the visualization of my business model entirely separate from the business model. And so we say that, our views could be that also, let me actually save this segment and we'll move on.